Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unmute. In this week's episode, Sabrine sits down with Jo McCormick to discuss body image. This is a must-watch episode for a much-needed conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, but leave your feedback in the comments. Enjoy!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unmute, the well-being podcast brought to you by We Care. All episodes streamed on Spotify and internally via Core and Concentrix University for our game changers.
Welcome to this episode of Unmute. I'm excited for today's conversation because we're diving deep into a topic that affects so many of us, body image. And joining us is the wonderful Jo McCormick, who's here to share their insights and journey on this topic. Hi, Jo. Welcome to the show.
Hi, so nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And to start off, Jo, we always love to begin with something a little light. And I'm wondering, if you could be anyone for a day, who would you choose?
It's a good question. I think I'm going to say myself. I think I'm not done yet. There's more to give. I want to see how this pans out and how everything works out. So I'm going to stick with being me. Is that a weird answer?
That answer. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm also curious a little bit to hear about yourself, your role here. And we can start off saying your personal journey as well with body image. That's all right?
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to share. It's a tricky topic, I think, for a lot of people, but I'm an open book and happy to talk about it. I think I definitely have, first of all, straight off the bat, I definitely have issues with my body image. It's a challenge for me. And I see these as starting from when I was quite young. I think, there's so much that we could delve into and we could go on for a really long time. But I think I grew up not having a massive amount of money in my family. And I think, things like even just being told finish your plate, you have to finish everything that's in front of you. I think that's definitely affected me. I think,
Absolutely.
Showing my age, I am a millennial and looking at the messaging that I saw in the media and around body image was incredibly toxic, I think. Thinking back to the early noughties, I'm based in the UK and there was so many TV programs where they outwardly shamed fat families, or they outwardly shamed fat people, or Nicole Richie on the Simple Life, with Paris Hilton. She was often being heavier and she was so thin. The whole thing was just wild. Yeah, but so I think it started really early on for me. I'm also neurodivergent. I have ADHD and autism. And, that massively impacts my ability to plan and batch cook maybe, or to, I think my impulsivity comes into play. Sometimes I want really, really familiar foods, or food textures can impact. So, that definitely impacts as well. I'm a queer person. I was socialized as male, although I'm non-binary and I use they, them pronouns, as you know. I think, I love my community and I mean this with love, but it can be quite toxic. I think being, socialized as male, I think there's some parallels actually with cis women as well, about needing to look youthful and needing to look muscular and needing to be, and I've definitely experienced a load of rejection and toxicity in the community when it comes to that. I definitely kind of struggle with body dysmorphia as well, and that basically, it's classed as a mental health condition. It kind of, I'm just looking at the NHS website. It's a mental health condition where a person spends a lot of time worrying about flaws in their appearance. These flaws are often unnoticed to others, and I think for me, it's you looking at what's on the scales and then looking at myself. I see a completely different thing depending on if I've lost weight. I feel like I look thinner, and if I've eaten less, I can look in the mirror and think, oh, I look thinner. And if I eat a big meal, I look at myself and think, oh, and obviously, you don't put on or lose weight that quickly. And I've definitely done a lot of really wild dieting, yo-yo dieting, and really tried to shrink myself. And in a way, I'm sad to think about how much energy and effort I've put into trying to shrink my body. My worth is definitely sort of it feels tied to what I see in the mirror and my body
Mhm.
image. I'm really trying to do the work to sort of undo that now. And I love to see like body positivity and,
Mhm.
just understanding that like health doesn't always equal, and for me,
100%.
I've definitely had conversations with people and they've said to me, I've been at the lowest points in my life. I've lost weight
Mhm.
because I've been starving myself and I haven't been able to eat. And they've said, God, Joe, you look so healthy. Like you look great. Like, what have you been doing? And I'm like punishing myself, guilting myself, like being at rock bottom. So
In the worst time of your life, right?
exactly, yeah, like times when I've been really, really struggling. And it's so confusing to hear people
Mhm.
look at me and say, oh, you look
Mhm.
great. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's sort of it doesn't add up, and it's such a complex thing.
I
I
agree.
definitely feel, like my family are all like big. I'm a tall
Mhm.
person, like I'm a broad person, like my whole family is like that. And
Mhm.
you know my if I look at my BMI and what my healthy BMI should be,
Mhm.
I should be like half the weight that I am now, like literally. And
Yes.
it's like that's crazy. Like I'm never going to be thin. It's such a simplistic view. And yeah, it's definitely been a source of a lot of issues. And like I say, it's trying to sort of do the work now to find some kind of just balance and intuition when it comes to food and nutrition and exercise and whatever. And
Mhm.
it's I'm definitely an all or nothing thinker. And if I'm going to start a new workout regime, it's like I want to do everything all at once. I want to be at the end point. And it's sort of slowing down to to speed up in a way. It's being able to just be more present and accept progress over perfection.
And it sounds like it's been such a complex journey with everything that you mentioned. And we know that we have a lot of factors that can contribute. Even when you were mentioning, I resonate myself with a lot of them. Even though we came from different backgrounds and we are different people, I believe that all of us can resonate a lot with the journey over here. We do have a lot of society pressures on how we should look like or what we should do with our bodies and how we could always, like move forward to at one point. And I know that sometimes even professionals, health professionals, can overlook a lot of aspects of well-being, and our bodies are constantly changing. We have a lot of differences between what is healthy, what is beauty, and this changes all the time. You were talking about being a millennial. I remember when I was younger too, and the body standards were so different than they are right now, and they keep changing, and everybody keeps changing. We do have these fixed ideas, right? I'm wondering as well, I'm curious, how have you learned to navigate all that, especially when it comes to deal with maybe the comments from people that are close to us, that usually are the ones that are more hard for us to hear, right? So how it is for you, Joe?
Gosh, it's a really hard one. I mean, definitely just setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sound, awful, but conversation just a couple of days ago with a friend who, and let's be honest, like this affects everyone. You can be too
Right?
thin, you can be too fat, you can be too short, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the grass is often always greener. I think it does impact people in bigger bodies in a
Mm-hmm.
more serious way, and there's a more outward kind of rejection of that in societies
Unfortunately.
around the world. But it definitely impacts everyone. And I had a conversation with a friend a couple of days
Mm-hmm.
ago. He was a really healthy weight. He's to me he looks very thin, and he goes to the
Mm-hmm.
gym a lot and he controls what he eats, and seems pretty healthy. And he'd said like, oh, I'm 6 pounds heavier than I was a week ago, and I don't understand how this could have happened. And I'm throwing away food, like food is evil. And I was like, maybe it's water weight, maybe it's muscle density, your weight can fluctuate, from day to
Right?
day. And 6 pounds in a week doesn't mean that that's all fat. I think,
Right? Yeah, I agree.
in the end, I had to say, look, I'm really sorry, but I need to stop this conversation. Like it was triggering for me for somebody's, saying it's that really normalized thing. It's fine to just go, oh, I'm throwing food is evil, and I'm throwing it away, and I'm going to starve myself. And, and obviously this was a private conversation with a friend, and I've since touched base with him and made sure that he is okay. But
Mm-hmm.
I think setting boundaries is definitely a big part of it.
Of course.
I think it's a bit weird. There's a bit of a double standard with like, parents. I've had conversations with my dad, and it's definitely out of a good place. And he said, I'm worried about your weight. Like, I'm 37 next month, and I'm heading for 40, and I guess towards middle age and stuff like that. And I'm kind of just like, if it was anybody else, I don't know if I would take that conversation, but I
Mm-hmm.
also know that it's well intentioned. So I
I
think,
see.
just trying to find some balance. Recently, I've deleted the Instagram app off my phone, and it's not just for this reason. Like I find that scrolling really hard, and it impacts my mental health. But a big part of it actually is fitness and nutrition influencers seeing so
Mm-hmm.
many sculpted, chiseled bodies, and being told go on the carnivore diet and just eat meat, or go on a vegan diet and just do this, and eat protein but don't eat, and all of this
So
contradictory
much
information.
information, right?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it's because, again, it might be my autism, and I can be a kind of a very literal person, and I find it hard if I don't understand what the right way to go about something is, and when
Mm-hmm.
everybody's saying contradictory different ways to be healthy,
Mm-hmm.
it's really distressing. And then, there's of course adverts, and as soon as you type in, I get,
Everything comes up on all social medias,
and it knows you so well. So I get adverts for
right?
medicated weight loss. I get adverts for personal training. I get adverts for
Mm-hmm.
diet and these food boxes, where like recipe boxes, and it's
Mm-hmm.
wild how much it knows about you. But that's been a really positive step for me, and I've been reading some literature around it. There's one called a book called The Last Diet, which I really recommend,
Okay.
and it just
Awesome.
starts to think about disentangling that and coming at food in a more of um, you know, a, a nuanced and an intuitive way, and not thinking about, like, it kind of starts to remove that guilty feeling
Mm-hmm.
around eating, and it's, we need food, it nourishes us, and I just think it's sad, to think about it in a negative way, because I love cooking, I love the process of that. It's
Right?
really
Yeah.
tough for me, and I think as long as it's balanced and it's not, not you know not too much of anything, really. I would say
Mm-hmm.
that's my take on it. But yeah, it's a really good question. I'm still kind of figuring that out. How do I just love myself and not be thinking about it? But going back to the icebreaker question,
Mm-hmm.
I have stretch marks. I have sagging. I have all scars, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I do try and just love my body every day as well, and and nourish it with that, and get it, go get it to move and go for at least walks every day, and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's amazing. And it has to be intentional, right? Because we came, like we receive a lot of from society and from social media as well, saying the other way. So if we are not intentional about it, like how can I love myself? How can I be more in touch with the things that I nourish my body, with the things that I believe that are working well for me? Then it will be very difficult, even for myself. I notice, even aging as well. I noticed that I'm noticing that on my body. I'm noticing that on the things that I do. And it can be kind of alarming, right? As a woman as well, to navigate once we, like we have a lot of pressure from always fitting one size, looking a certain way, maybe fitting some of the clothes that we know that are unforgiving, to be honest. They wouldn't fit anyone who's not a size, like zero or anything. So I love how you approach that. And even for myself, like the relationship between our bodies can feel strained. And I know that we do have a few actionable steps that we can take on into the final goal, that is loving ourselves. That we know that, of course, will not be something that every single day is the same, but we can try to be intentional about it and get there. So I'm wondering for you, what are some of the concrete things that helped you, whether it's in your mindset or daily habits, that we can do to start cultivating this relationship with our body in a healthier way, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, like I just said with social media, just try and cut through the noise in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
either find a way to block that out, or find a way to ignore it, because it's
And that's a huge move, right?
Yeah, I think setting boundaries, not accepting any kind of narrative which tells you that it's okay to stop
Mm-hmm.
yourself or to hate yourself
Mm-hmm.
or that you're not good enough, and starting to introduce some of more positive self-talk. I mean, I
Awesome.
definitely do kind of affirmations and stuff like that as well, and try and
Mm-hmm.
put out into the world that I love myself, I'm beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
I can achieve what I want to achieve, and
That's
that
lovely.
I deserve love. So yeah, definitely that. If it is kind of doing research, maybe being just careful what if you're looking online. Sometimes things aren't fact checked, and sometimes things aren't true.
Mm-hmm.
I say that in stuff I do around neurodiversity as well. There's quite a lot out there of things claiming that they can sort of cure people of their neurodiversity, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's just being careful to make sure that you're sort of accessing reliable information, and or and quite often literature or kind of scientific publications can be more reliable in that
Mm-hmm.
taking things with a pinch of salt, and yeah, just setting some boundaries, and just knowing that as long as you're able to be healthy and move within your means, and you're not being excessive in any kind of
Mm-hmm.
aspect of nutrition, then you're doing the right thing.
I love that.
You mentioned, one thing I just wanted to say was, you mentioned healthcare professionals. I've had
Mm-hmm.
a really difficult situation recently with my GP, my main doctor here in the UK, where I
Mm-hmm.
actually went to them and said, I've got fatigue, I'm struggling actually to lose a bit of weight, and I'm doing all of the things that I think I should be doing, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, can we do some blood tests? Is there anything that you can sort of recommend? And
Mm-hmm.
it actually showed up a couple of things going on with my health, with my liver, and you know, but the where the helpfulness, I guess, stopped was my doctor could only see. I could tell he could only see my BMI. He could only see my weight, and he kept talking about lifestyle, and if you change your lifestyle, then this should be okay. And if you I was really pleading with him to be like, look, yeah, I eat a load of vegetables. I at least walk, between 5 and 10,000 steps a day. I go running,
Mm-hmm.
I ride my bike, I go hiking. Like I do all of these things, which
Mm-hmm.
I move my body. I'm pretty sure I'm in a calorie deficit, and when I've been tracking it,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in, a moderate calorie deficit for long periods of time, and I'm not losing weight, and I'm not having the energy, and he just,
Mm-hmm.
he just settled on, it must be your weight, it must be your BMI, like,
Yeah. Well,
I feel like that's something like women and people who menstruate get a lot with their healthcare, and people of color, and I think it's maybe similar to, it's the first time in my life I've ever felt like judged just solely on that, and no
mm-hmm.
matter what I said or any way that I kind of explained to him, I'm
Mm-hmm.
healthy, and I'm not eating badly, and I do sit all day, but I make sure I get up and walk. That's really
Mm-hmm.
hard. It's like, how do you,
Yeah,
it's a sort of, I guess it's a fat phobic, view, which is
of
that, like,
course. And it's just so simplistic way to look at the situation, and could be so many other things. And I believe that even yourself during the appointment was not feeling reassured by the person next to you, right?
exactly. And then, I've done it, which I feel that I shouldn't have to do, but I've done a bit of research, and I have an underlying health condition, and I found out actually that this is probably what is contributing to the liver stuff,
Oh,
and the other stuff. So I'm a little
mm-hmm.
bit like, well, I wish my doctor had looked at, just
With
looked
the
a little bit
person doing
more,
that, right? Yeah.
instead of me having to do that. But it's tricky, and I'm equally, I'm not against losing weight to be at a
Mm-hmm.
healthier weight, and to
Mm-hmm.
feel more able to be more active and do more fitness things,
Mm-hmm.
and live a more fulfilled life. I think it's about
Mm-hmm.
finding balance, and
I
there's a
agree.
place for all of that, as long as it's not self-hatred, and as long as it's not really
Mm-hmm.
starving yourself, as long as it's not
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
just being told that you look in the mirror, that's not, it's not good enough, and that's so
Mm-hmm.
sad.
Yeah, I believe, and can be, like so tricky for us to live our whole lives always trying to fit in a size that we know that sometimes cannot even be possible to. I remember, like a life-changing moment for me was during the pandemic. I was one more than 1 year in lockdown, stuck at home, working, but doing the things and not exercising enough. Like usual things that I used to do, like going on a walk to the subway, I was not allowed to do anymore. And I felt my body so different than it used to be. And when I started to think about, oh, I should get some exercise, I should start to eat a little bit more properly, then my head just went to, like that bad aspect of the diet and the difficulties of getting exercise and having to fit an expectation. And I remember that one of the things that really helped me was to try to do exercises without focusing on losing weight. That was one of my goals, but my main goal was my mental health. And then I thought to myself, like, okay, what is one activity that I can do that will not trigger me? And then I started to do a fight, like Muay Thai, and it was something that was life changing for me. I remember that because I was focusing so much on my strengths and how could I empower myself in a lot of different ways. And even in the neighborhood that I was growing in, like I'm a girl and I used to play with dolls and everything. So, oh, you were doing a fight right now. So I remember that it was really empowering for me to try to do this move. And by the end of the day, it was something that really saved my life. It was really nice for my mental health. And it was just switching the mindset as well. Of course, it was not easy, a lot of therapy involved, but switching the mindset to understand that my body will be with me till the end of my life. So how can I be a little bit more careful with the things that I say to myself, with the things that I do to myself, with how I nourish my body as well? I had this thought that diet should be something that you are just restricting food, and now I can see this in a more holistic way, like eating cake with your friends can be more healthy than just eating salad alone, and that's something that was really life-changing for me. And I can see for you as well, that's a lot of things that are happening and happened in the past year. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. I'm actually curious, Joe, as well, if you do have any final advice you would like to give our game changers too, or final thoughts for us to sum up our conversation today.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that as well. And yeah, I just think, just be kind to yourself, like you are
Mhm.
enough. Love yourself and be kind to your body. That's the only thing. And don't settle for any narrative which is less than that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that this conversation was so inspiring and can be so relatable to all of us that are hearing you right now. So thank you so much for sharing your challenges and as well the self-compassion that you're bringing to you. I believe that all of us will resonate a lot with what you're saying. So thank you, Joe. And for everybody tuning in, remember that your body is yours and we can try to show love every single day with tiny, tiny, tiny activities. So hopefully this conversation was insightful for you. And Joe, you're invited to come whenever you like. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure.
Join us again next week for another episode where we unmute the conversation around mental health.